Hey yo, salute to all my subscribers and a special shout out to everybody else passing through. YouTube, what's good? So recently I had a talk with one of the panelists from the roundtable discussions that I do weekly on my live stream. We had like a little side talk. We were talking a little bit about relationships and particularly the earlier stages of a relationship. When you first start talking to somebody, it's still fresh. Y'all still kind of getting to know each other, still filling out vibes. You might know you're feeling that person, but you're at the friendship building stage. You're trying to develop that connection, potentially see, where this thing could lead you. Um, and what we came up with was scenarios where the person that you're talking to, they're in a period in time in their lives where they're struggling a lot, financially. They may need help with financial things. Could be here and there, or it could be very frequent. But you're still in the stage of that relationship where you might not necessarily be that comfortable yet contributing to that person in that way or investing in that person in that way. And so, we had actually tried to do a quick blog on it, but we had some technical difficulties and just never reconnected on that same topic. But I thought it was interesting, and I did want to come through and talk a little bit about it with y'all, and kind of leave it here, so y'all could chime in and let me know how y'all feel about it. So this is what I want to do. I'm gonna try my best to recap the overall gist of the conversation, and I'm gonna try my best to try and catch all of the points that were made. So, and this is the question that I'll pose to y'all too, because this is what this platform is for. So, what happens? You meet somebody, and they're cool, you're cool, and maybe several weeks or even a couple months into the situation, they start, you know, in just normal casual conversation, because I don't want to make it seem like these people are necessarily going out of their way to ask for help, but they just, they may say something here or there, like, hey, I'm stressed out this week, or, I got to pay my car note next, in the next week or two, and, I'm like $200 short, or I got to pay my rent and I'm, short, what have you. And, naturally, you being involved with that person, you might naturally feel inclined to want to help them out. And so, the conversation that we were having, me and this other panelist was, how do you know when enough time has passed in that new situation with that person for you to start contributing in that way, start investing in that way? And you wouldn't really think of it, because depending on the kind of person you are, most people would just be like, oh, yo, if that's the person that I'm rocking with, if we're supposedly starting a new relationship, then it's kind of expected on a certain level that you would be willing to step in and help that person out in those types of financial situations. But then this person I was talking to, they brought up a really good point, and they were like, at the same time, you still filling that person out. And before you start contributing in major ways financially to the relationship, even if it's just $100 here, a few $100 there, you might want to be real careful until you get to a point where you know for sure you really rocking with that person in that way. Because what can tend to happen, and I agree 100% with this, what could tend to happen is either A, that person may take that contribution or take that help, as a I don't want to say a form of weakness, but a pattern can develop, and they may feel like, well, if you did it once, you know, even if subconsciously, they may repeatedly come back to you, because they feel like, where they found that relief the first time, then the next time they get into a bind or get into trouble, they're gonna go right back to that, where they know they're gonna be more likely to get that help. And then two, you can also create a dependency for a lot of people. There are a lot of situations where people are, even in full blown relationships that are long term, people can develop like kind of like a dependency on that relationship and on that person. And every time they get into a little bit of trouble in those situations, they may be more likely to run right to that person because they know that that person's going to be there to bail them out. And that's true, you know. And so my question was, so that being the case, and you know, you want to build into the relationship, you want to create that, you know, that bond. You know, you want to see where that connection could lead that relationship, because you get into a relationship with someone, you know, anyone that you get into a relationship with has the potential in those earlier stages to be that one that you want to create a long lasting relationship with. And you don't necessarily want to do things too early on in that process that would potentially and intentionally damage that connection. Because some people don't take to, you know, whether you call it tough love, or you know, whether you genuinely can't help a person or you're genuinely not willing to because you want to make sure that it's worth it for you. You know, it's not being cynical, it's just protecting yourself. You know, the way that, you know, the climate of things now and the way relationships go now, you know, with everything that goes on with social media and people who are maybe married but they're also dating on the side, or they may be in a committed relationship but they may be seeing multiple other people, you really do have to consider protecting yourself out here these days. And because of that, you will have legitimate reason to have, you know, pause when it comes to contributing in a financial way to another person, especially while you're still in those earlier stages of getting to know that person. So it's legitimate. But the problem is, and this was one of my points too in the discussion, um, some people don't know how to take that. Some people will take that, you know, in a way that will cause them to potentially have resentments. And so if, even if in those situations, you know, they may let on that they understand where you're coming from, and they, you know, it's not going to be a major change to the relationship. You know, as time goes on, there are people who will develop certain resentments, and because they may feel embarrassed, or because they may feel like when they come to you for help you shoot them down, or you tell them, you know, you're not ready to contribute in that way to the relationship. If that relationship does work out and that person does prove to be, you know, a healthy connection for you, but that may damage communication down the line, or that may make that person feel like if they are ever in trouble, um, they may be more apprehensive to come to you. So it's a slippery slope. You know, these are the types of things that, you know, I feel aren't talked about enough, need to be discussed a little bit more in our everyday relationships, because these are the things that I feel like more people than not struggle with and don't really have a guideline, or don't really have a blueprint and know how to address these types of situations. And that shit is real, because you know, it can never be a set way. You know, there's no absolutes. Every rule has an exception. You know, even guidelines can be bent sometimes depending on, you know, what the situation is and who it is you're dealing with. But these are the types of topics, these are the types of discussions that are tailor made for this platform, for this channel. Because if I'm sure that whoever you are who's listening to this blog right now, I'm sure that you've been in relationships where in the earlier stages you may have dealt with a person like that. And some people get very annoyed by that. You know, then there's the position that I don't want to get involved with the person who's not even in a place where they're stable enough that, you know, they constantly have to be putting it out there that they need help. But then again, you have to look at it from the other side as well, because you can play devil's advocate in so many different ways with these types of situations. You know, and it's like, some people are in relationships to feel needed. Some people don't look at being used, and I'm not using the term being used in this context as, you know, having a negative connotation, because some people want to feel used, because to them it's not used, to them it's them feeling needed and feeling like they're being helpful. So some people look for that. Some people actually go out into the world and look for people who have those types of personalities where they need to find someone to depend on, because those people like to be depended on. And vice versa. You have people who are in search of, even if subconsciously, they're in search of people who they can depend on because they're needy people. So it's about being properly matched and taking those earlier stages to really figure out who that person that's going to potentially be your partner is for the next however many years of your life. These things, while they may not seem too important on the surface, they may not seem to matter too much in the beginning stages of the relationship. If that relationship potentially lasts 5, 10 years, or even just 2 years, it's still a significant amount of time out of your life that you can't get back. And even relationships that are considered to be unsuccessful because they don't stand the test of time, or they don't end in marriage, or they don't end with children, or they don't end with you riding off into the sunset, however brief that relationship is. Every relationship that we get into is meaningful because into those relationships we bring us with all the good and the bad, the stress, the baggage, the optimism, the pessimism. We bring everything with us into a relationship. And when it ends, we bring whatever we put into it and whatever experiences we got from that relationship, we bring those with us when we leave. And they continue on with us into the next relationship. And so on and so on. So, because every relationship is important, and because this conversation that me and one of the panelists had, that I wish we were able to upload, but we had some technical difficulties, I had to bring it to y'all for further processing because shit like that is real. It's those discussions that kind of come up, in the just out of nowhere. While you're in the middle of a conference call or what have you, and then you just go off on these side conversations. It's that type of real shit that I will always, always, always bring to y'all to find out what y'all think about it. So, having said all that, let me know what y'all think about it. What's your position? Are you dealing with somebody right now, or have you dealt with somebody who is a very needy person because they legitimately struggle financially for whatever reason, and they always need financial help? And they may not ask you directly, but they're mentioning it. And so, do you, as that other person that they're dealing with, do you feel obligated to help? And then I'll throw in this one last wrench too into that whole thought process. Because remember, this is early stages relationship. This is not boyfriend, girlfriend, 2 years, or live-in situation. In those situations, you should be contributing. You should be helping. And it's give and take. I'm talking about you've just met this person. You're only a few weeks or a few months in. It's not really at a serious level yet. You're still building on that. And this is a person financially that seems to always be reaching out for a lifeline. But I'm going to throw one more wrench into it though. Because, the person I was talking to from the panel, who's a female, my perspective was, is there a double standard that comes with that? How does that look for the many women who get involved with men, and even from the first date, like from the door, you have a large number of women out here still feel like if a man's not paying the first date, if they're not doing this, they're not doing that. I can't even consider a second date. I can't even consider continuing a situation with them. And so I feel like men would be more expected, even when we just get involved with a woman, to be more able, willing to help out financially if there are certain things that come up. Obviously, you wouldn't expect something serious. 2 months in, you need like $5,000. Like, that would be a little bit extreme, of course. But I feel like there may be a double standard here. I feel like a man would be more expected to offer up financial help, even with a woman that they just met and started dealing with, than a woman would be. And so I want to know, is there a double standard here? Is this issue, or is this subject matter, is it to apply equally across the board? Is it going to be the same for women as it is for men? Because the more I think about it, I don't see it going the same way. I see a man looking crazy, and I see a woman looking at that man crazy if they're just started talking, maybe it's 2-3 months, and that man is saying, yo, I'm short on this, I'm short on that, type of situation. Again, maybe they're not asking, but most people know when they're just throwing shit out there out loud, they want somebody to hear that and come back with something. So let me know what y'all think. Is there a double standard? Is there even legitimacy in the point that if you just hook up with someone, if you're just meeting someone, although you are building towards something, is there such a thing as too soon to start helping out the other person financially? Because that's an investment, and that investment might not necessarily yield you a return, not monetarily, but with that relationship working out and having some longevity. Let me know what y'all think. I don't pretend to know everything. I just know what I know. Let me know what y'all think about this one, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace and love.